Arrow Video's latest re-release from Warner Bros. Back catalogue to 4K is Paul W.S. Anderson's Soldier, released back in late 1998 starring Kurt Russell. It was a box office flop at the time, costing around $60 million, and it only recouped $14 million worldwide. Now, it wasn't released in theatres in every country. The UK was supposed to receive it in cinemas, but Warner Bros. Decided to back out of the idea despite posters being produced, and it went straight to VHS in the summer of 1999. Reviews from the critics weren't kind, with Empire magazine awarding it 1 star out of 5, saying, "Kurt Russell should have known better. It's every Western you can think of, it's Frankenstein, it's the Terminator, it's rubbish." The New York Times said, "Soldier quickly becomes as sticky and predictable as a mediocre episode of Star Trek, befriended by a gentle pioneer settler and his beautiful blonde wife Sandra, who discreetly ogles the hunky warrior. Todd has his first experiences of human warmth. The last third of Soldier is a dull, phony-looking series of fiery scenes culminating in an inevitable showdown between Todd and Kane. The action is strictly routine." Back in October of 1998, when Ain't It Cool News was a thing, they criticised director Paul Anderson by saying, "What really astounds me is here's a filmmaker that seems to want to make films that combine elements of multiple genres, but he doesn't seem to understand any of the genres that are being used. This is tragic." Warner Bros. In the late 90s was seen as making many bad decisions, commissioning a lot of poor scripts, and was struggling with many box office bombs, and their features were mostly trashed by the critics, with Batman and Robin, Father's Day, The Man Who Knew Too Little, Steel, The Postman, The Avengers, Mad City, Sphere, and of course, Soldier. The film didn't do Kurt's career any favours, as he didn't get another acting gig for 3 years, and Paul W.S. Anderson went and made a TV movie 2 years later, but he got his career back on track in 2002 with Resident Evil. Soldier would arrive on LaserDisc and DVD in March of 1999. I did cover the LaserDisc over a year ago in one of my pickup videos. With it being a late release, it's not that common to find. It included an audio commentary by Paul W.S. Anderson, producer Jeremy Bolt, and co-star Jason Isaacs, which after 30 minutes I found a bit too dry for my liking. It also included a Dolby Digital 5.1 mix. The LaserDisc picture is pretty good, but due to the colour design with the use of strong reds and oranges, it does produce unwanted noise in the composite picture. Despite that, it reviewed well at the time, with Widescreen Review awarding it 4.5 out of 5 for its picture and full marks for its sound quality. I'm currently crowdfunding my latest documentary, which celebrates the 1988 Cannon Films classic Bloodsport, which made Van Damme a superstar worldwide. Fight to Survive, The Legacy of Bloodsport details the origins and making of the film, plus coverage on the sequels, all the knockoff movies, and Van Damme's directorial debut, The Quest. Check out the link in the description of the video to help support the project and get yourself a limited Blu-ray, a poster, have your name in the credits, plus other rewards. The Kickstarter ends soon, so check it out before it's too late. The DVD would include a few more extra features. Firstly, the DVD was anamorphically enhanced, so the picture is far better compared to the LaserDisc, with better colour and a more stable image with less visible noise, and it's sharper in detail. The DVD carries over the Dolby Digital track and sounds just as good. The DVD included the audio commentary and a few extra bits such as a trailer and production notes with bios for the actors and director. The DVD also reviewed well, scoring high marks. As this was the early days of DVD, it would also contain a pan and scan version on side B of the disc for those who didn't have a widescreen TV and didn't like having black borders at the top and bottom. Soldier was shot on 35mm anamorphic film, so you lose a lot of the picture with the full screen option. I think many people who saw Soldier for the first time would have caught it on VHS and in pan and scan. In 1999, not everyone had jumped onto DVD, and VHS was still the popular option to rent and buy movies. Soldier would come to Blu-ray in August of 2011. It would carry over the archive commentary and a trailer. The audio would be changed from Dolby to DTS. The audio would have some complaints, however, from reviewers, pointing out the dialogue was too soft and the sound effects were too loud, resulting in an uneven mix. The picture transfer was a big step up over the DVD. Thanks to the increase in resolution, there's a lot more detail on display, but some reviews had pointed out it had some DNR in places. But overall, it's a pretty solid picture. So after 15 years, Soldier has finally been given the 4K treatment with a new transfer supplied by Warner Bros. And approved by Paul W.S. Anderson, and presented in Dolby Vision. This release isn't a fancy box set but a standard release with a reversible sleeve, which I'm not a fan of. The artwork does not match the quality of the original poster, and it includes a booklet with a new write-up on the film by film critic Priscilla Page. On the extras front, it's a bit uneven with the presentation, with a mix of proper interviews and some with webcams. But the information provided makes it a worthwhile purchase, especially if you are a fan, as Warner Bros. Haven't provided any new extras since its DVD release. First up, we have a 9-minute interview with actor James Black, who played one of the soldiers who doesn't get thrown away like Kurt, and comes to his rescue at the end when they battle the new group led by Jason Scott Lee. James started out in doing stand-up comedy, and began appearing in B-movies such as Zombie Cop in the early 90s. And got roles in bigger films such as Out of Sight. He auditioned for Soldier and got the part, and really enjoyed working on the film, especially with Kurt Russell and Gary Busey. Next, we have an interview with assistant director Dennis McGuire. The interview takes place over a webcam, which is pretty poor in quality, but thankfully the audio is good. Dennis got the job on Soldier due to Jerry Weintraub, who Dennis had worked for on Karate Kid Part 2. Dennis said the role of Todd was intended for Stallone, but he went off and made something else, and he was replaced with Kurt. Dennis made the smart decision to make the production cast twins for the role of the little boy, as only having one child will make it difficult to film, as they will get tired very quickly. There is an interview with associate producer Fred Fontana, which is about 10 minutes in length. Fred had worked in TV for years and was thinking of taking a break, but was persuaded to jump onto feature films working with Jerry. Fred said they originally intended to make the film in Australia, but Warner's preferred it to be shot in LA. Fred said the script had been around for years, with Keanu Reeves once being considered, and even Arnold Schwarzenegger. We have a 14-minute interview with production designer David L. Snyder. He chats about how he got into the industry. He explained how he got typecast due to his work on Blade Runner and Brainstorm. With his experience with science fiction, he was the ideal choice for Soldier. He was disappointed the film failed, and blamed Warner Bros. For not putting the effort in to give it a wider release. There's a 5-minute breakdown of the visual effects with before and after shots, narrated by visual effects supervisor Craig Barron. A very interesting video, and it demonstrates how well the visual effects have stood up over the years. The longest featurette, at nearly 19 minutes long, is an interview with FX artist Craig Barron, Van Ling, and miniature supervisor Michael Joyce. Craig and Van explain how they worked at ILM and left and worked for Map World Digital and banned from the Ranch Entertainment. This is an enjoyable featurette on how they produce the effects, miniatures, and the on-screen graphics, with Van Ling throwing in references to other Kurt Russell feature films. There was a nod to the pulse rifle from Aliens, and Paul Anderson requested some references to Blade Runner to pay homage to it. Next, we have an interview with Danny Stewart, the author of Soldier from Script to Screen. Danny discusses his passion for the film and what inspired him to write the book. It's unfortunate the video quality of his interview is so poor, clearly done on a smartphone with a poor signal. Come on Arrow, it's 2026. You do need to pay more attention to the quality control on these extras. We have a retrospective on the film with Heath Holland from the Serial at Midnight YouTube channel. A nice little addition, but Heath provides info that is already available in the other interviews. Not his fault, as he wouldn't have known at the time of recording, so you end up with quite a bit of repetition of the facts. From Warner Bros.' own archive, Arrow have supplied the original electronic press kit with interviews with the cast and director and some extra B-roll of filming behind the scenes. This is stuff Warner's should have slapped on the DVD and Blu-ray years ago. And there was a photo gallery and trailers, with the international version being far superior to the US trailer that you can commonly find online. So when it comes to the new transfer to 4K, it's not a massive leap in quality. Yes, there is slightly better colour, with warmer flesh tones. The planet Todd is thrown onto is not just an orange mess anymore, and displays far more variety in the colour palette. There are more details in the shadows, though it takes a slight step back in brightness, which is not a bad thing, as the adjustments make the composited effects look less obvious, and thanks to the 4K resolution, it is slightly sharper with the picture. But it's not a massive improvement over the Blu-ray from over a decade ago. You will have to look at both transfers to see a difference, as on face value, you may not see much of an uptick. If you've been stuck with your old crusty DVD for years, then this 4K will be leaps and bounds ahead in quality. When it comes to the audio, it features the DTS sound mix that was available on the Blu-ray, and even a 2.0 stereo mix for those who don't have a big surround sound speaker setup. The stereo track is always handy when using a soundbar, but for Soldier, the 2.0 mix is wildly unbalanced, dialogue too quiet, and the sound effects are way too loud. Often it's the newly remixed Atmos or DTS tracks that have this issue, but the DTS track is the preferred option, obviously for the improved dynamic sound, but it doesn't suffer from the uneven audio levels of the stereo track.
God help us.
I saw Soldier when it first came out on VHS. I still remember the guy at the rental store telling me that it went straight to video as it failed so badly, which didn't leave me with high hopes, but I still rented it anyway. After watching it, I recall enjoying parts of it, but it was a bit lackluster in places. It did feel like a direct-to-TV movie in moments, and I was watching a pan and scan VHS tape, so the look of the movie has been destroyed by missing half the picture and with the videotape's poor resolution. I would go back to it a few years later on DVD, then eventually Blu-ray. Having it in proper widescreen made me appreciate the production and its visual style more, but ultimately it doesn't do anything new. Come the late 90s, there had been plenty of action films that dealt with a similar subject. We had Universal Soldier in 1992 that had super soldiers who didn't really speak much and had similar traits to Todd. So going into Paul W.S. Anderson's take on David Peoples' script, you feel you've seen it all before. It's very formulaic. If the film came out in the 1980s, it would have done far better at the box office. But by 1998, its story seems tired and done before. You go into this film for the action, and it's okay at best. Some of the sequences are framed and shot very well, but it incorporates so much slow motion it becomes a bit irritating, and they even artificially slow it down in moments in the edit, and it's really off-putting. These were editing tricks they deployed in the 90s for music videos, and it never worked well. I'm a big fan of Kurt Russell. He has fantastic charisma on screen, and he has turned in so many great performances. But casting him in a role where he barely talks is a very odd choice, and ultimately seems a waste of his talent. He got into fantastic shape, but audiences go to see him on the big screen for his acting skills, not to see him basically play a mute. It must have thrown people off at the time. Jason Scott Lee, again a great actor, who always brings a lot of energy to his performance, and only has a few lines of dialogue. I think the decision to make these soldiers have little to no dialogue did handicap the movie. Soldier is not for everyone. It does have a bit of a bad reputation for basically being a bit naff and dull in places, but it has become a cult classic. I like the concept of it, it has some good ideas, and it has a really interesting visual style. But having these characters who say very little and don't express much emotion, it makes it a little tough to get invested in their journey, and the villains don't really get to shine. Having Gary Busey not go full Busey is a shame, and Jason Isaacs just plays a bit of a weasel. Some movie fans love it as it has a tiny connection to Blade Runner with some minor references and with it being written by David Peoples, but to me that doesn't warrant it being a good film. It has a lot of great talent behind and in front of the camera, but the script needed more work, and the creative choice to give the soldiers little to no dialogue was a mistake. But I am happy Arrow put the effort in to give this film a decent home video release. With Paul W.S. Anderson approving the transfer, it's a shame they didn't get him to sit down and reflect on the movie after all these years. If you are a fan of Soldier, then you will be pretty pleased with this new upgrade. If you've never seen it before and are perhaps intrigued by its premise, perhaps rent it first before putting down over £20 for a 4K Blu-ray, just in case it doesn't meet your expectations. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to click the like button and hit the bell to be notified of my latest reviews. Big thanks to my patrons and YouTube members for supporting the channel. If you want to get involved and gain access to exclusive videos and take part in Q&As, follow the link below.